Salutations everybody, my name is Matt and this is my new video blog, Fade to Black. I should really say this is my first video blog because I have never made an old one to compare it to, but after having years of my important thoughts and otherwise random rants of idiotic whimsy ignored by the general public, due mostly to my shy and reserved nature, I decided that now was as good a time as any to find one more way my voice could be heard on the interwebs. Because Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Blogspot, and all the other hundreds of sharing devices just weren't enough for me. Now, if you haven't already clicked off this little video to watch another video of a cat playing Wii Golf or something else cats don't normally do, then I will assume that you want to know more about how I want Fade to Black to run. And I'm happy to tell you. For the most part, I'm going to use this show as my futuristic soapbox to talk about anything and everything that has been rattling around somewhere in my brain. And instead of jumping in front of the camera and looking like an awkward fool, I've decided to use pictures and maybe a video clip or two to help you, the viewer, see what I'm seeing in my head. I don't know how long I'll be able to keep this up, however, because I have the attention span of, But nonetheless, I will try my best to keep the posts on a regular basis, as long as people want to hear what I think. Now, I'm not an expert on anything. In fact, I can tell you with almost 100% certainty that every once in a while on this show, I will say something that's not accurate, or maybe even a little offensive. So before I talk about anything else, I just want to issue a blanket apology for anything and everything I may say from this moment forward. On the off chance that I really hit below the belt on something though, take the liberty to write me as long as you realize that I might take the liberty of ignoring you completely, because that's what having your own show is all about. You can be wrong, rude, offensive, or downright stupid all you want, as long as you have a camera and a microphone. So, yeah, God bless America. But back to the topic at hand, on Fade to Black, I'm going to talk about whatever might be on my mind at the time, like movies, music, superheroes, TV shows, and even far less complicated topics such as politics, religion, race, and the human condition. All of these will be given through my perspective, a 20-year-old, comic book loving, lower middle class, overweight, heterosexual black man. So there might be a chance that you, the viewer, might not totally understand where I'm coming from on every issue. But I say that's what makes these kind of things fun, right? To hear a side of the story that you might have otherwise missed out for one reason or another. So, without further ado, I would like to start this crazy train off with something that everyone has an opinion about. Oh yeah. It seems that everyone and their prepubescent sister has an opinion on the Twilight book and movie series. Some say that it's the greatest love story in our generation. Others put it on the same list as the Necronomicon and lesser-known books like How to Be a Better Nazi. And with the new and final Twilight movie coming out, I think the battle against Team Twilight versus Team Everybody Else may finally die down. But I figured it might as well hop on this train while it still has some juice on it. If you have been in a coma for the last couple of years and have decided to use this video blog as a means to regain all your lost time, I'll give you a quick synopsis. But take in mind, I haven't read all of the books. In fact, I haven't read any of the books. And I've only seen the first movie from beginning to end once in my whole life. But I have worked in a movie theater for 4 years, so I've had the story retold to me a couple of times, so I think I'm qualified. The main character is a girl named Bella, who you might as well name ho-hum because everything about her screams average, with a giant side of mediocrity. She moves in with her father in the rainy state of Washington to start the new girl, new high school storyline. Enter the love interest, Edward Cullen, a 200-year-old vampire who lives with his family of non-human eating vampires in the same town. And although being described as what would happen if the hottest man on earth and a shiny disco ball had a love child, this sulking, blood-sucking dreamboat falls madly in love with Bella McPlainjane, despite being able to have his pick of literally any of the 300 walking statutory rape charges a 200-year-old killer could ask for. The story is nothing you haven't already seen before. Girl is everything guy could ever want, guy doesn't want to pull the girl down, their families don't truly understand their love, and there are forces trying to keep them apart. There's even a best friend who has loved the girl from the very beginning, but is just a friend no matter how many abs he chisels into himself. No, like I said, the story's been done to death, but what makes Twilight different, for me at least, was the characters themselves. Edward Cullen, a vampire, could walk around freely in sunlight without burning to ash. Everyone in his family had some kind of unique superpower, making them into the undead super friends, and when the werewolves showed up, because werewolves always show up when vampires are involved, were pretty much just like the village people who turn into really big dogs. This is where I think the first problems occurred. It wasn't the sappy love story or the horrible acting in the first movie that had people mad. It was taking these timeless, powerful icons of geek/fantasy culture and turning them into bait for tweens. I gotta say, at first, I was pretty up in arms about the whole thing myself. Growing up in the 90s/early millennium, vampires have always been one thing: evil. They were soulless killing machines of the night, living forever on the blood they sucked off of the necks of anyone with a pulse. They were demons on Earth. In fact, on the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, once someone was turned by a vampire, their soul was lost and then became a creature that lived, well, figuratively lived, only to feed and cause other people pain for no reason besides their own amusement. Compared to the vampires of my youth, Twilight Vamp seemed almost sad in comparison. I mean, even though it's common to have the good vampire drink only animal blood, I feel like the world needs to have things shaken up a bit. Why can't we have a vamp who has an occasional old lady when the mood suits him? Or maybe a priest when his friends are over. Why would that be so bad? He could still be a good guy, just a more realistic one in my mind. I mean, if someone were to offer me a cheeseburger, chances are I'd eat it. Heck, I'd probably eat two. But if someone offered me the chance to kill every single cow on the planet, I'd probably turn them down, and most likely try to stop them. But, to be honest, the vampires in Twilight were hardly vampires at all. Edward Cullen and his kind were more like shiny superheroes who had more in common with your average leech than with a bat. It seemed strange that these people who would have been gods if they were as old as they say would decide to live in hiding and be on student council and play baseball after geometry finals. Granted, I haven't read the books, so I would hope they would talk about this, but it just seems like the author was looking to make a new creature and then just got lazy and slapped vampire on it instead, thus angering all the nerds, geeks, and even mainstream monster movie fans that have been following vampires for years. But after all of that, after all the craziness with the cups and the teams and the mugs and the sweatshirts and the fan fiction with everybody crying, I gotta say, bravo, Twilight. Bravo. Now hear me out. I'm not saying it was good that they made a race of vampires so sappy and weak that Wesley Snipes would feel bad about punching them in the face, but for taking something as nerdy as vampires and putting it on the front lines of mainstream media. Geek culture is on the rise, and like it or not, Twilight is one of our most heavy hitters. Although right now it seems like it's just building a flock of 12 to 16-year-old girls to blindly follow the relationship of one fictional couple, what it's really doing is building a world where the geek has a chance in it. Because in 2 to 6 years, those little girls who love vampires, werewolves, and nerdy stuff will be 18 to 20-year-old women who like vampires, werewolves, and nerdy stuff. And geeks could use some more of that. It would be hard for a bully or some otherwise toolish individual to give someone crap about playing Dungeons & Dragons when Becky Hotpants is a half-elf rogue who is a prestige class as a whirling dervish. With the rise of other mediums that were once called strictly nerd territory, like superhero movies and space alien epics, the nerds of the world will finally have the guy-to-girl ratio to gain the upper hand, because we all know where the women go, the money goes also. So, as much as it may hurt me to say this, Twilight may be bringing us into a new golden age of nerddom. A shiny, shiny golden age. Thanks for watching. That's all I got. Fade to black.